don't know they see this man, what do they call Ajuri? No, you know, Fimbona. This guy, it too lie. In fact, if they not quick commode this man, then go finally divide Nigeria with lie. No thing where this man will talk, we be say no they backfire. If he talk anything, go verify him. And the funniest thing, he dey quick come out, show himself. If he talk, say, may they applaud Tinubu, say he don't remove the UAE visa ban. Or maybe never for year. The next thing, he just release another blunder again. Say Tinubu na the first African man to ring closing bell for an occasion like this, wey concern the NASDAQ stock markets. Like really first man, African man, wey ring bell for occasion like this, wey they concern the world. My people, I don't know if he talk this thing, he could just talk him with the highway be like mune. He could just, in fact, Arise TV fire. Trust our Rufai, trust our Abati, trust Ayo, they finish. Trust Ajuri they go Zolon Aladia. They fire him. When they see him say, they don't make blunder. Hey, quick. Now they change mouth. Now they release another one. They can't talk for this one. Say presidency apologizes for major blunder. I like that word. Major, not be minor. Major blunder in claiming Tinubu was the first African leader to ring closing bell at world's second largest stock exchange in New York. Hey, when Ajuri Zole evidence ladia, when she pile up evidence, thank God for internet not they forget. In fact, quick then they call press, make press gather quick then they disclaimer and say I better go, we'll be talk so, we'll not talk so again, my people. APC they carry us, they go since they enter, and that's also lie with the year. I don't want to constantly below for. Now remember the news where I gave some hours ago about this boy where died, this 12-year-old boy where died, where they not find intestine. They say he just go missing after surgery. So we want to hear right now say they don't arrest the doctor we perform the surgery. But the shocking thing way they inside this arrest now, I want tell now. So this kind of reach us say the doctor will be Abayomi say, according to the interview with the grant time, say he was not a qualified surgeon. So he was not a qualified surgeon, yet he performed 2 surgeries for this late boy. He performed 2 surgeries for him. 2. Where he mistakenly cut his intestine. Oh my God, this is murder. What a shame. Even if he was practicing, carrying out a major operation unsupervised is a big no. But the question I be say, when they first show this video, they show say this child's intestine was missing and they don't know how it a miss. So which means that they've been covering this thing up since a very long time. When this boy at the hospital, when they found out that this child had a missing intestine. There's what we call the duty of conduct. Being open, honest, and transparent about anything you've done that has gone wrong. Talk and come and say, this thing I me do. So they allowed the boy to die. Then they arrest the doctor way performer. Then after a series of investigation, they come find out say he cut his intestine. What a shame. Totatikolo amekbede. My people so be Bod TV, but we will analyze all the trends where they happen. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Wakoyo wawese heria hail.
There have been mixed reactions trailing the statement released by the presidency after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu rang the closing bell of the NASDAQ stock market on Wednesday. Renowned for its large selection of technology stocks, the NASDAQ stock market is ranked second globally on the list of stock exchanges by market capitalization of shares traded, behind the New York Stock Exchange. Well, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri, in a statement on Thursday, said the NASDAQ invitation was in honor of Tinubu's determined global push to aggressively attract foreign direct investment into Nigeria, and that Tinubu was the first African president to ever receive the honor. Well, the presidency has come under fire as another African leader, former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete, rang the NASDAQ closing bell 12 years ago on September 21st, 2011. Also coming closer home, celebrated pharmacist Professor Issa Odidi rang the NASDAQ opening bell in October 2010. Well, former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan rang the New York Stock Exchange, which is ranked first globally on the list of stock exchanges in September 2013. While DJ Copy, the famous daughter of Nigerian billionaire Femi Otedola, also rang the New York Stock Exchange opening bell in September 2019. What can I say? The presidency, we have to find a way to do some research before, putting out these statements online.
You see, we should stop embarrassing ourselves. This is bad. How can somebody go and write such a thing without even fact-checking? Jakaya Kikwete rang the thing in NASDAQ. And you see the way everybody is tooting the horn. This is something DJ Copy has even rang, even a higher stock market and all of that. What is that? Just like we did with the Dubai something. Yeah. That CNN has now come out to say that the Dubai authority didn't say anything around that. And they say with immediate effect. Till today, they've not refuted CNN story. What is happening? What's happening?
What's all this?
What's all this?
I think it's quite unfortunate that the misrepresentation of facts is now blighting what should have been a glory
Lies and
moment.
propaganda.
Yes. What should have been a glory moment for the president. Ringing the NASDAQ bell for many CEOs, leaders, an opportunity for immense brand exposure. And for the president in his first, a little over 100 days in office, it's a statement for him to also ring that bell. That statement ought to have just ended there. We're proud to, the fact that the president was invited by NASDAQ to ring the closing bell, and that's a win for him in many instances. So I think, like you mentioned, the task of a presidential spokesperson is an arduous one indeed. And before statements are put out there, there are so many platforms that you can use to fact check that everybody will check your statement.
Yes.
But congratulations anyway to the president and to Nigeria.
Fact check, Google, the oracle, that's what you call it.
Anyway, much ado about the ringing of bells.
Yeah, I know.
But the main concern, of course, is that, okay, Ajuri and Gelale got it wrong there. As who was saying that Simon Lalong, saying the government is just trying to settle down. Allow the government to settle down.
Oh, should allow them, okay.
So, because I see some people have been saying Ajuri and Gelale is now like Lai Mohammed, baby. I mean, let's cut him some slack.
We should.
Yes,
Yes, he's the grandfather.
I'm sure he got your message.
I mean, it's not me. We're here to report the facts, isn't it?
I'm sure he got the message. You'll be more careful going forward.
Well, all right.
I plead on his behalf.
Okay,
As an ancestor.
Please. We also like to plead on Ajuri's behalf.
Okay, no problem.
It was a slip.
And we are not
But get
attacking
the facts right next time, pure and simple.
I'm sure he's watching or he knows he's been told already.
Well, all
Thank
right.
you very much.
Congratulations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as always. He's been doing well.
Falana joins me now in the studio. You look a little bored there.
I'm very frustrated,
Because you keep hearing these people talking about you all the time, and you're like, oh crikey, not me again.
Yeah, but we'll get to address the problems, you know.
But elections, and great to have you here, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Elections in Nigeria, how could we move forward? What is your assessment of all the electoral jurisprudence, and should we go back to, to reform our electoral laws?
Charles, we have the largest number of election cases in the world, the largest number of election petitions, and the largest number of pre-election cases, because the members of the political class are not prepared to allow democracy to thrive in Nigeria. So what they do is to try and rig and out-trick themselves. And at the end of the day, the problems are then thrown at the courts and election petition tribunals. You need to appreciate the danger that we're facing. Right now, majority of cases in our court, many of our courts, are simply suspended to allow for time-bound election disputes to be resolved. We can't go on like this. We just cannot go on like this. And what is the solution? Again, once the ongoing election petitions are concluded, we must, in the interest of the country, go back to the drawing table. And the solutions are around the corner. But successive regimes, since about 2007, have refused to adopt the solutions that have been preferred. One, the first one, is on the independence of the management election bodies, the INEC and the State Independent Electoral Commission, which, by the way, the State Independent Electoral Commission conduct the worst elections in Africa, whereby all the candidates of the ruling party must win. Two, some of those who are accusing INEC of rigging elections perform worse in the conduct of primaries of their political parties. Now, the first one is we must have an electoral body, and we're all going to respect that is independent and well-funded. One, the Owa's Electoral Reform Panel recognized that when the sitting president appoints electoral chiefs, there are problems. Therefore, we're going to appoint electoral chiefs, INEC chairman, the commissioners, national commissioners, and the RECs, resident electoral commissioners, by advertisement.
But that's been talked about before. I remember you talking about it in 2019.
Yeah, but these guys are not ready.
Right.
Now, once that is done, the National Judicial Council will shortlist and send the names of the best three for each of the positions to the Senate. The Senate that will screen them, not take a bow, re-screening to know if they are competent. Right. Secondly, all election petitions, all disputes shall be concluded before the inauguration of the incoming government, so that nobody will be accused of using the position of the executive incumbency powers while your election is still being disputed.
But do you trust the judiciary to be able to really deal with those cases in that short space of time?
Well, we have 6 months.
Yeah, because you see, I see what you mean. Yeah, from the conclusion of the election
let me just finish.
Right.
Yeah. The third one is that the onus of proof, the onus of proving that a credible election has been conducted shall be on the INEC. Because you have told the whole world, you have conducted the best election, you come to court and prove same. Because to impose the onus on the petitioners is very difficult. To get the election materials, a Herculean task. But INEC has all the materials. You come to court and prove that the election that we have spent huge sums of money on has been well conducted. So these are the major recommendations.
But what is the state of the law at the moment? Can someone, because you, for example, in the past, you've had the reputation of taking different institutions of government to court.
Yes.
I mean, can someone take INEC to court and say, come and prove just what you said, that you conducted a free and fair election?
Under the current Electoral Act.
Right.
The onus is on the petitioner. But the Ways panel recommended that the onus be shifted to INEC. I mean, for instance...
But can you do it as a civil case and say, right?
No, because the law is there.
Right.
And this is what the law has provided for. Yeah, and so that is why the commission, the panel recommended that we need to amend the Electoral Act. And since then, we've had the Electoral Act 2010, Electoral Act 2022. And these guys simply brush aside these fundamental, amendment recommendations. Because in 2011, there was a crisis following the announcement of the result of the election. There were protests in about 12 states in the north and in Akwa Ibom State. And on that basis, President Jonathan set up the Ahmed Lemu Committee to review the crisis and then make recommendations. Again, the panel came to the conclusion that for us to avoid electoral violence and so on and so forth, we need to go back to Ways panel. President Buhari, who was elected in 2015 and celebrated the introduction of technology, also set up a panel headed by Senator Ken Namani to review our electoral laws. Again, that body recommended that we need to go back to Ways panel. So there is a general understanding that we need, incidentally, as the national leader of the APC, I think, yes? No, ACN, then APC. Ajuri Bola Tinubu, the current president, set up a committee, CODA, Committee to Promote Electoral Reforms. And that body also campaigned for the implementation of the recommendations of Ways panel. So there's a general agreement that we need to reform the electoral law instead of blaming judges. The current Electoral Act and the jurisprudence promote injustice. For instance, in the Electoral Act, paragraph 51 of the first schedule told the electoral provides that no electoral officer can go to court or the tribunal to give evidence against the election that has been conducted, even if he or she is convinced that the election has been manipulated, unless he obtains the fiat of the Attorney General. The Attorney General, either at the federal level or the state level, is likely to have been appointed by the president or the governor, whose election is being disputed. So, and the other point that was made, that the era of the impunity that characterizes our elections has to stop. And so the panel again, the Ways panel recommended the establishment of an electoral offences tribunal. We pursued that matter 2 years ago, or last year. We convinced the Senate to pass the bill for the establishment of an electoral offences tribunal to deal with those who are messing up the electoral process before, during, and after the elections. Again, the House of Reps did not pass the bill. Hence, we are back to square one. So again, this is an opportunity now for us to look at the aspect of the Ways panel's recommendations that have not been implemented. So that we can put an end to this ugly development and the shame.
That's a very good point. Yeah. But in that context, should those electoral reforms be spearheaded by President Tinubu himself? Is that the way to restore confidence?
No, as I said, President Yaradua in 2007 admitted publicly that my election was highly flawed. That's his language. Therefore, I'm going to ensure that we do not have a repeat. I mean, that was General Obasanjo's election, the do-or-die election, which over 300 people were killed. And before that, 2003, Buhari and Obasanjo, the late Justice Pats Asholonu made the point in the Supreme Court that under our electoral system, to successfully challenge a presidential election, you will need about 250,000 to 300,000 witnesses. And there can be no time for that. Now, we have only 21 days to do that. Now, what then happened after that? The panel made profound recommendations. Even the Yaradua regime did not quite accept.
So clearly, this is all much more political than legal,
Of course.
really.
Now, as I said, President Jonathan set up a panel, President Buhari set up a panel. Now, President Tinubu will have to lead the campaign. Now, it's very, very, very important. And that is the only way for us to get out of this mess. It's a monumental mess. The waste is unimaginable. The enormous cost to the society, the damage done to the reputation of our courts. It has to be, we have to look at all these implications and then insist that just like Kenya in 2017, I compared the electoral process in Kenya and Nigeria following the annulment of the presidential election in that country. And I came to the irresistible conclusion that we cannot continue like this. Happily, those who have just lost elections now are now asking for the Kenyan model. So we have to, just like Kenya decided, we cannot continue like this. Nigeria has also got to that stage. Because we are marked 300 billion naira for the election.
But does it really matter how much you rewrite or reform the Electoral Act? I mean, because in the final analysis, some would argue that it's just a piece of paper unless the law is applied and enforced. So shouldn't the focus be on reforming the institutions?
No, you're going to reform the institutions by reforming the law. For instance...
Yeah, but they've reformed the law, but the institutions haven't moved on, have they?
Reform the law.
I mean, the Electoral Act, 2022 Electoral Act was supposed to be a reform.
For instance, I can tell you.
Right.
In the 2010 Electoral Act, Section 34, gave every citizen the local standard to challenge the information provided by any candidate. So, but these guys removed that section and then amended the Constitution to declare that only members of a political party can challenge the nomination, the disqualification, or the sponsorship of a candidate. Now, instead of looking at the law, we're blaming judges for interpreting the law as it is and not as it ought to be. So, and that is why the law is so fundamental. Once we have reformed the law, and we set in place the Electoral Offences Tribunal, then we can deal with those who manage the institutions dubiously or criminally, and individuals who also commit electoral offenses right now. And this was, again, another recommendation, that INEC has to be unbundled. INEC currently will have to register political parties, will have to register voters, will have to conduct elections, will have to monitor the political parties, will have to examine their finances, and so on and so forth. Hence, the Uwais panel recommended that INEC be unbundled. Right now, it is even INEC that is asked by the, I think, Section 145 of the current Electoral Act to prosecute electoral offenders. INEC does not have the means to do that. Hence, the Nigerian Bar Association is trying to work with INEC on a voluntary basis to prosecute some electoral offender. But that shouldn't be so. The Waste Panel discovered that we're dealing with gross impunity and therefore recommended that there should be a body. If we want to get our Electoral Act respected by all and sundry, we need a body to arrest violators of the Electoral Act and then have them prosecuted so that some lessons will be learned. But right now, all those who were arrested the last time, including somebody I think in Rivers, you know, who was caught with about $500,000, the case filed against him has been withdrawn by the Rivers State government. And that is the whole purpose of saying, let us have an independent body to deal with electoral offenders. And once you don't punish, once you don't sanction criminal elements in a society, there's no way the institutions will work. I mean, look at what is going on in the U.S.
It sounds like
President Trump is facing a standard trial in 4 different courts. It's impossible here. The big men and women here are above the law, you know. And so we must go back to the society
But that speaks to institutional reform, doesn't it? Yeah.
Of course. And like I said, you must reform the law and reform the institutions. But what is important is to punish offenders.
But you see, all these things you've said, and you have consistently said over the years. I mean, your position has not wavered.
No, not at all.
Clearly, it sounds like it's the best way to advance the course of democracy in Nigeria. And every time you recommend going back to the drawing board. But how do you push that point to the relevant
what we are doing
institutions
now,
like the National Assembly?
At the level of the civil society, we have Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and beyond. We have other organizations that are being mobilized to insist on major reforms of the electoral laws. And unless we do that, and the campaign is starting soon. The campaign is starting soon. And some of us are going to invest in that campaign in the interest of all of us. I mean, you have young people who were voting for the first time and they felt so disappointed. And we can't go on like that. We cannot go on like that.
Absolutely.
Because once people are frustrated from, you know, believing in the electoral system, they begin to look for very dangerous alternatives, and which is not in the interest of democracy.
Yeah, you make some very good points there. But, you know, it's not every day we have you in the studio,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Falana. So I'd like to get your thoughts. Just move slightly, still election related. We'll kind of move slightly away from these reforms that you're talking about to an issue that's in the news right now, which is, you talked about the United States, a judge there adjourning Chicago State University case, Tinubu's Tinubu's case, till Monday, and temporal stay of execution after Tinubu's plea that it'll cause irreparable harm to him. Give us your take on that. What kind of irreparable harm could it possibly, I mean, what are they talking about?
No, Charles, I think that question should be directed to the president's
I understand
lawyer.
that.
But what is important, frankly speaking, again, this is part of the problem. We conduct an election in other African countries, right? You only go to the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court, and these matters are decided within 14 days. In our own case, a presidential election dispute will be in 2 courts for 8 months. Governorship will be in court, 3 courts for 10 months. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. So we must learn, draw some lessons from this crisis.
No, I understand, I
you
understand
now
the way
have-
you're,
no, what I'm saying,
you're
you now-
carrying
I'm saying
away that,
you now
that
have
question.
election petition
Right.
going on in Nigerian courts and the United States.
Right. But let me ask you
now,
this.
like I've told you,
Yeah.
I'm not in a position
I
to talk of.
I understand that, and I'm not trying to
what is
put you
important-
in a
but what
straight
we must-
jacket.
the lesson
Right.
I'm learning from the U.S. system
Right.
is the speed.
Yeah, but let me
which
ask you this.
these cases have been
There seem to be many people who believe that there is a desperation by the president to hide those records from Chicago State University, and that ultimately it could prove to be a huge embarrassment for Nigeria because of that. What are your thoughts on that?
Charles, as a lawyer, I deal with evidence. You're a journalist, you can engage in speculation or conjecture. But based on the facts on ground, in the United States, everybody has the right to plead privacy.
Yeah, I understand that.
Now, the university, right, even in the secondary school in the US, in the college, to release sometimes the result of a student, even to the parent, there are laws guiding them. So if the president says, sorry, I don't want my result, my details released, right? The court will have to consider the implication of that on Monday. Vis-a-vis the request by
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Atiku Abubakar
Sure.
to have those results.
Yeah,
So
but
that's for the judge.
I understand
Monday.
that, and I understand the
So in other words,
ouster
the private
clauses.
interest
Right.
of the president will have to be considered,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With President Atiku.
I understand that, but
Vice
as
President Atiku's
a
position.
lawyer yourself, which you've emphasized the fact that you are a lawyer, what would have prompted you to, on behalf of a client in such circumstances, to hurriedly appeal against the judgment of the magistrate court ordering the release of just academic records?
No, again, the university has said President Tinubu attended this system. The management of the school has said he attended the school. Mr. Atiku Abubakar is insisting I need the records because there's a case going on in the Supreme Court. Now, again, it depends on the privacy, the right of the student
I understand that.
to have his relief.
But it's also
released.
interesting, isn't
Of course.
it, from a legal point of view, that there's another complication, which is that the university are saying that, as you said, he attended the school, but they are not willing to say that under oath.
Yeah. Again, that is
What
the
does
problem.
that tell you?
That is the problem of the school. Again, I think we should wait till Monday.
Right,
The
okay.
court will have to take a decision.
Yeah, but I understand that. Let me get you to wear not your legal hat, but your civil rights hat, for which you're well known and you're well respected.
Yes.
You're an activist. Would you call on Nigerians to demand from the president that he release his authentic academic records and clear the air once and for all? In other words, as some have suggested, it should not be a fight for Atiku Abubakar alone. It should be a fight for Nigerians to demand to see the records
Charles,
of their president, given that it's so controversial.
As far as I'm concerned, right? Nigerians, right? Majority of Nigerians, and I'm not talking of the elite, are busy trying to eke out a living, right? But if you are talking of a public figure, right?
Which he
can
is,
say
clearly.
you hardly have private lives, private interests. But if under the United States law, somebody says, I don't want my result, details of my result released, you then leave the terrain of law to the area of morality. Should they have released the result? Should they have allowed the university to release the result or not? Now, and the court on Monday will also look at the totality, the implications, and also the court will also want to know, what is this request about? And the court in America would then balance the interest. Should we compel the university to release the result in spite of the objection of President Tinubu or not? Or the university says we're not ready to be deposed. Again, that is the business of the university. Right? But that is not for a Nigerian lawyer to insist.
No, I understand.
Forget your law in America, you know, respond to the demand of Nigerians.
I totally understand
so
that.
That is the position of the law. Because at the end of the day, another battle will arise. Even here, even if the records are made available, and there's another issue here, which is, can the record be admitted?
Yeah, that's another. That's an important question.
It's an unfold. For me, it's an unfolding.
And that's a question that you can't answer.
No, I can't.
That Atiku has filed his case in the Supreme Court.
Ethically, I cannot preempt the Supreme Court.
Yeah, obviously you can't preempt that. But is it your sense, based on what you know of the law and the time frame and all the rest of it, that Atiku can submit whatever emerges as fresh evidence in the Supreme Court, or is that not going to happen?
Frankly speaking,
yeah.
I don't want to express an opinion on that.
Right.
Frankly speaking. Because again, I will be preempting the Supreme Court. And I don't want to do that.
Right.
And in fact, the application has not been made yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it won't be fair to turn your phone.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah.